Welcome to my views and news. Some news stories for you. Firstly, viewers, Mekelle, Tigray's capital. House to house searches, arrests, detention. What is happening? Why were people detained in the last 3 to 4 days in Mekelle? Why were extensive house searches conducted by security forces? People are worried, they panic when they see such security measures and they start talking about resumption of armed hostilities. They have gone through a lot. They don't want to see a new war. So what is happening in Mekelle? Secondly, viewers, Amhara region 2 days ago floated the idea of a referendum, that a referendum should be held in disputed territories where identity border questions are raised. Without mentioning the names of the area, Gizacho Molone proposed the idea of holding of referendums. How is this suggestion being received? Tigray activists, Amhara activists, what are they saying? Tigray interim government, did it issue any statement in response to the call for referendum? And what about Colonel Damakizadu, who opposed referendum a few weeks ago in a talk, I think? I think something is going to start in Wolkait, especially in coming days. We have details of this something for you. Lastly, viewers, the patriarch of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church has arrived in Mekelle. He was received by Gata Choreda, Tigray interim president. Obviously, he is on reconciliation trip. Who is accompanying him? Did Tigray archbishops show any flexibility after the church issued an apology last week? I think Tigray showed little bit of flexibility, though one Tigray archbishop completely rejected the idea of reconciliation. But then we heard from a spokesperson of Menbere Salama, which is Tigray's so-called independent religious structure. What did the spokesperson say? Can Abune Mathias convince the Tigray archbishops to rejoin the main church? We'll have a look at this important development. Firstly, viewers, Mekelle, Tigray's capital. 3 to 4 days ago, some activists who are very critical of TPLF, who oppose TPLF, they claimed that a security operation had been launched in Mekelle. House to house searches were being conducted. People were being detained. People pro-Tigray government activists always reject the reports of anti-TPLF activists. Yesterday, we got confirmation from Mekelle. We were trying to confirm from the ground, and yesterday, through a friend, we got in touch with the people in Mekelle, and it was confirmed. They confirmed that in Mekelle, in the last 3 to 4 days, checkings have been conducted. Security forces checked several neighborhoods. Extensive house searches have been conducted by security forces. And that is why people are worried. They think that not only house searches are being conducted, but people, especially youth, are being detained. People say that it could be start of conscription. Maybe Tigray is again going to war with Amhara or Eritrea. Why are people saying that? Because they are worried. They don't want to see a new war. They have seen that happen in the past too, that people were forcibly recruited by Tigray Defense Force. That is why. Well, I'll speak in coming videos about threat of new Tigray-Eritrea war. I have some information which I'll share with you in coming videos. Before that, these searches could be connected with deteriorating security situation in Mekelle and other main towns and cities of the Tigray region. Law and order situation is deteriorating. Armed gangs, street gangs are operating, street crime on the rise. Last week we saw a social media campaign against knives. People displayed banners, social media messages against this, against increasing incidents involving knives, incidents of violence. Thieves, robbers, they're armed with knives mostly when they commit street crime. So these searches in Mekelle could be related to security situation. Firstly, that criminal elements are being identified and apprehended. Secondly, Tigray trained fighters of Tigray Defense Force. Tigray interim government does not want these Tigray, former Tigray fighters who could be armed to form gangs, to be involved in criminal activities. That is why reportedly some former TDF members were arrested in these house-to-house searches. And people say they were taken to unknown locations, maybe to camps. Demobilization started. It began a few weeks ago in Tigray after Tigray handed over heavy weapons, group weapons, Air Force weapons. We saw start of demobilization. Tigray fighters were seen reporting at camps, and they're bound to be there. So far, reintegration could not begin. Why? Because there is lack of money, lack of funds. And these Tigray fighters are being kept under check, under surveillance. They are armed, they are trained, and they could be involved, or they could become involved in criminal activities. That is why searches are being conducted, and some former TDF fighters were arrested reportedly and then taken to unknown location. That is why people say that there could be start of a new war, which I'll speak on in coming videos. So for only confirmation, large scale security operation conducted in Tigray's capital Mekelle, confirmed by locals. Secondly, viewers, last week we saw that the Amhara region proposed the idea of holding a referendum in Wolkait to resolve the deadlock over disputed territories. The two disputed territories are Raya and Wolkait. Both Tigray and Amhara regions have their claims to these two zones. How is this idea of referendum being received? Tigray interim government has not said a word. It's totally silent about idea of holding of referendum. Right now, it wants return of IDPs. Its emphasis is on return of IDPs. We saw a protest in Shire yesterday by women. They demanded return of IDPs to their homes. Secondly, Tigray and Amhara activists, what are they saying? Amhara hardliners, Fano fighters. Amhara hardliners, Fano fighters, they reject the idea of referendum. They say that Amhara PP is selling Wolkait and Raya to Tigray. PM Abiy is selling these two zones to Tigray. They are opposing, they are against any idea of holding of referendum in Raya and Wolkait. Tigray activists, they also reject the idea of referendum. They say that both zones are part of Tigray. They have been part of Tigray, and referendum is not a solution. Solution is that Tigray should take back its territories. Tigray's border must be restored to pre-war, pre-November 2020 position. So in a way, both sides of activists have rejected the idea of holding of referendum. Now, parties in these zones, in Wolkait there is Abune, in Raya there are mayors etc. like Hello Bira. In Raya, the parties in power, interim parties obviously backed by, interim groups backed by Amhara regional government, they support the idea of referendum. They submitted an appeal, they submitted a petition to the Ethiopian House of Federation with more than 100,000 signatures asking House of Federation to announce holding of referendum in Raya. In Wolkait, the situation is different. Here, Abune opposed the idea of referendum a few days ago at a gathering. He delivered a speech in Humera, I think, then in Dansha too, and he said no IDP return, no referendum. Wolkait is Amhara. This zone has been part of Amhara. It was annexed by Tigray. So he is openly opposing the idea of referendum, though he has not said a word about after this statement by Gezacho Mulone. His response after the idea of referendum given by Gezacho is awaited. But a few weeks ago, he said no referendum. Now, reportedly, in Wolkait, we're going to see start of rallies and protests. That is what we have learned from the area. The preparations are underway. Abune will speak in front of people, I think. He is known for giving his views in front of people. Why? Because that is what his strength is, that he uses public support to put pressure upon Ethiopian federal government and Amhara government. So it's very likely that in coming days we could see a big protest in Wolkait, Humera, Sagade, and there Abune is going to speak. He will make his position clear about referendum. Let's see, will he support the idea of referendum or will he oppose it? That remains to be seen. But preparations are underway for some big protests in Wolkait. We already have seen some big protests in Wolkait a few days ago in Dansha. There was a big rally. Then in Salamti too. Before that in Humera too. Tigrayans have been expelled from these areas. Amharas are in majority there now. Abune is in command. Militias under him too. So obviously he can organize a big gathering once again. Let's see. We'll upload in coming videos. I think this week we could see a big protest in Wolkait. Thirdly, viewers, the patriarch Abune Mathias, Ethiopian Orthodox Church patriarch Abune Mathias has landed in Mekelle, Tigray, the capital, welcomed by Getachew, the Tigray interim government. He is on reconciliation mission, though official statement is that he is there to deliver humanitarian aid, but he is accompanied by a delegation. A big delegation. Some church elders are there too. Are Abune Petros, Abune Abraham accompanying him? The two archbishops who are not welcome in Tigray, because Tigray accuses the two archbishops who are from the Amhara region that they fueled the war, they backed the war on Tigray in the last 2 years. Abune Petros is not accompanying Abune Mathias. Abune Petros was seen at Addis Ababa airport. He said goodbye to the patriarch. He did not accompany patriarch. Same is the case with Abune Abraham, I think, as well. Abune Sarios is accompanying the patriarch. Abune Sarios is one of the 3 archbishops who tried to rebel a few months ago when they formed a breakaway faction. They made some appointments of bishops backed by the government. They tried to get support in the Oromo region of Ethiopia. The church then announced nationwide protests. There was confrontation between the main church led by Abune Mathias and breakaway faction led by Abune Mathias. Later, we saw reconciliation, rapprochement happened, and now Abune Mathias is back with the church. Abune Mathias is close to Tigray archbishops, because it was being said that Tigray and Oromia factions could join hands in this confrontation against the main church. That is why Abune Mathias is here. Maybe he was made part of the delegation because he can convince Tigray archbishops to rejoin the church. What is Tigray archbishop's position when an official apology was published by the main church? How did Tigray Orthodox Church respond? Tigray Orthodox Church did not officially respond to the apology issued by the main church. We saw a statement of one Archbishop, Abune Mathias. He talked to the Voice of America. He rejected the apology. He said it was too little, too late, and that some church elders were involved in the war. They are not acknowledging their role in the war. Then we saw a statement from a spokesperson of Menbere Silama, which is a regional independent regional religious structure formed by Tigray archbishops. Menbere Silama spokesperson said that it was a good start, though not enough. Very interesting words, good start. It means that Tigray Orthodox Church partially welcomed the apology. It wants more. And maybe Abune Mathias is there to give this more to Tigray archbishops. So Tigray archbishops did show some flexibility when they said through their spokesperson that it was a good start. Let's see what happens. Abune Mathias is accompanied by elders, Ethiopian elders too. We could see start of talks. Any breakthrough expected? Too early to say. I think he'll deliver. Talks will be held. We could see results later. All depends upon Tigray interim government, Ethiopian federal government. Do they want church elders to be united or not? If they're against a united church, you will see that this mediation effort will fail. If they want a united church, we could see some sort of rapprochement or progress towards reconciliation between the main church led by Abune Mathias and the breakaway faction. We'll try to update you in coming videos. The patriarch arrived just a few minutes ago, so we'll update you in coming videos about his meetings, engagements in Tigray. Thank you for watching.